erased, as it were, airbrushed. That to me is both unnatural and indecent. I think that if you're looking at a woman's anatomy, it must be beautiful in all of its parts. We cannot take one part of the anatomy and say that this is vulgar or obscene, and that the rest of it is okay, the rest of it is decent. That just simply doesn't work.
Once, this was a bridge to an island that was itself a bridge between two worlds. Where American Penthouse magazine models once served cocktails to communist elites, this was Bob Guccione's grand experiment. A crossing between capitalism and socialism, not just over a sea, but over an idea. Guccione poured the equivalent of $45 million into its creation, nearly $300 million today, to build a paradise where pleasure and ideology could coexist. Before Haludovo, before the marble and the chandeliers, there was a young man from Brooklyn with a sketchbook and a stubborn belief that beauty should never be censored. Bob Guccione had been fired from nearly every job he ever held. At 18, he turned down a scholarship and left for Europe. First Italy, then London, chasing art, adventure, and a purpose. There, he married young, and to keep his new family afloat, he took any work he could find. Cartoonist, laundromat manager. There were no parties, no luxury, just survival. But from that struggle came an idea, a magazine that would be sensual, intelligent, and unapologetically free. A rival to Hugh Hefner's Playboy, but with a sharper mind and a bolder lens. In 1965, he founded Penthouse magazine from a tiny London flat. As Penthouse grew, so did the controversy. Guccione spent years fighting obscenity charges and government censorship, defending in court the idea that art and the human body were not crimes. He faced raids, lawsuits, and bans across several countries, but each attempt to silence him only made him more defiant. When Yugoslavia, a socialist nation ruled by a communist party, yet open to both East and West, opened its doors to foreign investors, Guccione saw not just a business opportunity, but a statement, a chance to prove that pleasure could cross political lines. In the summer of 1972, on the Croatian island of Krk, near the fishing village of Malinska, Guccione's vision took shape, the Haludovo Adriatic resort and casino. It was the first luxury resort of its kind in a nation ruled by a communist party. Yugoslavia, as a non-aligned state, stood in a rare position trading freely with both East and West. The Cold War was at its height, and few dared to build bridges between the two sides. Bob Guccione was one of them. Designed by Boris Magash, Haludovo embodied brutalist elegance, raw concrete, open spaces, and marble terraces overlooking the Adriatic. Yugoslavia needed hard currency. Guccione needed a stage. Together, they created one of the strangest partnerships of the 20th century. To lure Western elites, he opened the Penthouse Adriatic Club Casino, staffed by 50 Penthouse pets, whom he called the new peacekeeping soldiers of the Cold War. That summer, Haludovo glittered. Pele filmed a Pepsi commercial here. Henry Ford II stayed in the suites. Silvio Berlusconi gambled at the tables. A young Saddam Hussein left a $2,000 tip for the staff, the equivalent of 6 months' salary in Yugoslavia. Even the Rolling Stones performed inside the Haludovo Palace Hotel. Diplomats, businessmen, and members of the Yugoslav Central Committee mingled under palm trees and chandeliers. The June 1972 issue of Penthouse announced the opening, and Guccione poured another $500,000 into promotion. For a brief, shimmering moment, East met West under one roof. The quiet village of Malinska, once known for its Mediterranean simplicity, became a playground of global ambition, and today it remains a popular seaside destination, a reminder of the island's glamorous past. Under Yugoslavia's self-management system, workers shared control of their enterprises. The hotel's owner, Brodo Komerk, struck a rare deal with Guccione. 3% of profits in the first 3 years, 7% after that. It was capitalism in a socialist accent. And with an airport nearby bringing guests from across the globe, Haludovo seemed unstoppable. Roulette wheels spun, champagne flowed, and the Adriatic reflected a dream where ideology took a holiday. But utopia is expensive. As the initial wave of curiosity faded, so did the profits. Gambling was forbidden for locals who could work but never play. When the first generation of wealthy tourists moved on, the tables went quiet. By the late 1980s, Haludovo's luxury turned to dust. It remained open, visited by families and later by graffiti artists, but the glamour was gone. What began as a bold bridge between ideologies ended as a fading postcard of forgotten opulence. For Guccione, it was a gamble that never paid off financially, but it did prove that even walls of politics could briefly be crossed by pleasure. The final blow came with the Yugoslav wars of the 1990s. Haludovo's marble halls became refugee shelters. Rooms once fit for millionaires now housed families fleeing artillery and loss. After the war, the resort reopened, but the magic was gone. It closed in 2002, and Guccione himself went bankrupt in 2004. The Haludovo project had played its part in his downfall. In those final years, he also lost control of Penthouse magazine, the empire he had built from nothing, swallowed by debt and changing times. Ownership eventually passed to Ara Abramian, an Armenian businessman close to the Kremlin, yet the resort remains frozen in time, a palace without guests. Today, the remains of Guccione's first communist casino stand silent above the Adriatic. The pools are dry, the marble cracked, but the spirit lingers a monument to ambition, decadence, and the strange friendship between capitalism and communism. Once, this was more than a resort. It was an idea, a place where East and West could meet, drink, and dream together. And though the laughter has long faded, the echo of that impossible dream still whispers through the halls of Haludovo.